Happy Saturday, guys. Two income producing properties hit the South Florida market today. Let's check them out and see if any of these make sense. All right, so first up, we're gonna have this $949,000 triplex in Broward County. By the way, neither of these properties tell us how much you're collecting in rents or what flood zone they're in. But that's fine. We could still do a good amount of work on them. All right, for a triplex, $949,000 doesn't look that bad. Let's take note of this. So I suggest if you're following along, right, what we're going to look at first is the price. So 949, it's a triplex, and we are in Broward County. And the reason that I take note of this stuff is because later on, when we do our homework and we compare properties and we follow up, we want to make sure that, the ones that are actually looking like they're winning are the ones that really turn out to be good. And if not, learn from our process and what we could improve as we analyze properties here every single day. So because they don't tell us what returns they are, first we're going to want to know what the condition of the property actually looks like. Because based on that condition, we could estimate if the rents look like they belong in the median, right, of the rents for that county, or if they're above median, or if they're towards the bottom end of the spectrum in terms of what they could collect. So let's look at the quality of the property here. All right, was that it? No, 38 pictures here. So you can see here, property doesn't look all that bad. It seems obviously better, but this property, yeah, I think if you brought a tenant here, it doesn't, it looks attractive. Little hammock, yeah, this is cute. Like, I know that tenants will pay for this. And there's a park nearby. That's what they're trying to tell you here. Okay, cool, awesome. Well, I really like it. Let's see what the breakdown actually is. All right, and we're gonna go down here. So it is a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, a 1-bedroom, 1 bath, and a 1-bedroom, 1 bath. Now here's the interesting part. They tell us how much they're collecting for these, right? And they're saying that for the 2-1, they're collecting $4,000 a month. They're saying for the 1-1, they're collecting $3,000, okay? And that for the other 1-1, they're also collecting $3,000. Now, mind you, I haven't put this information in here, so let's update that. They want $949,000 for this, all right? In taxes, they are paying, they said $11,702 per year, and they're collecting, according to them, $10,000 worth of rent. Now that sounds, I don't know about what you guys think about that, but that sounds high to me. So let's do a quick rental check. Now the property does look pretty nice, but I would say it's just like, it's not like the top end where like it's a duplex in front of the water where like, all the, you could have a boat pull up and you could have a nice day on the ocean. Instead, this is like a little bit above a median tier kind of property. So, a 3-2, which there's not even that. There's a 2-1, right? The median in Broward County for a 2-1 is $1,960. And they're saying that they're collecting $4,000. And you can see here, guys, why. If we scroll up here, it says great investment opportunity, fully functional Airbnb short term. Now, you might say, hey, Andres, that means that you can collect $4,000. Yes, you can. But how much is Airbnb keeping? How much are you paying property management? How much are you paying to clean those sheets every time that a new person comes in? You're not going to be rented 100% of the time. So is $4,000 the month that you got the most amount of rent? Was it high season, low season? What percentage of the month was it vacant? There's a lot of questions that come in with short-term rentals that honestly, like as a person that's looking to invest and grow your portfolio, if you have to deal with just short-term rentals everywhere, unless you're going to hire a property manager, right, it's not going to make sense, right? The return's just not going to be there. So we always estimate, and if they're there, guys, great. But like this other guy who you should follow, his name is Ken McElroy. He's a billionaire, right? What he says is like, hey, it's great. If you could get more money doing Airbnb and like you could find a manager and just do it and make more money, fantastic, do it. But you should always make sure that the property can cash flow with long-term tenants. Okay, so that's what we want to focus on because again, if you can make more money, fantastic. But you want to make sure that you could cash flow with long-term tenants. Otherwise, you might end up bankrupt. There's no other way to put it. And the majority of people who buy residential multifamilies end up losing them. Or a large portion of them, disproportionately large compared to the people that buy condos and people that buy single family homes. Why? Because they don't know how to invest. They don't know how to property manage. They don't know a lot of things that go with owning an investment property. or they'll just overpay for the property. You know, they could turn out to be great property managers, but they just overpaid for it, so they could never actually fill it with somebody that's able to pay the mortgage off and then get a little bit more money out of it, right? So for that reason, the $4,000 is way overstated. Okay, they are not collecting $10,000 a month in rent. I mean, if they did, this property would be a killer property. This property would give you a return on investment of 43%. That's double what Warren Buffett can do. So instead, and why would they be selling it at that point, right? They'd be silly to sell it if it actually made that correct amount of money. So what I really think this property can make, right, for the 2-1, let's say the median is 1960, this property might be able to make 2150. So let's give them that, 2150 here. Shoot, let's give them 2200. Okay. Now the 1-1s, the median of rent is about $1,600. I'm gonna go ahead and give them $1,750 for each. Okay, and that's probably going to be more realistic if you actually do, you look at the rental comps for properties like this within a 1/10 of a mile of this property. And now what returns does that give us, right? $5,700 in rent, okay, with a purchase price of almost $1 million, that puts us at a 0.6 guys, out of the 1% rule. So, you know, it's nowhere near close to the 1% rule. It's only 60% of the 1% rule, right? And at that point, if you're actually collecting these rents, it wouldn't even pay for your mortgage. And that's exactly what I mean. Let's say something were to happen. Now there's no Airbnb, right? Like another pandemic. It's happened before, guys, right? And then you have no Airbnb and you have to rent it to people that live in the area that are looking for a new place. Well, even if you rent them out, right, at these prices, it wouldn't pay for your mortgage. You would still be cash out of pocket. Plus any repairs that you need to do, those will all be out of pocket, right? And so I think that the best return this property can actually give you is a 7.2% return. And for that, guys, you know, just invest it in the S&P. I mean, I think that the most that this guy's going to be willing to drop his price, let's say you take off like 90 grand, right? And so you reduce it to like, let's say, right, 860. Right, the best return that this property is going to give you is at 8.2%, okay? And that's dropping 90 grand off the price, which might be hard in and of itself. So with that being said, guys, we'll skip this property, not worth looking at. And look at the last property for the day. It is a $630,000 duplex, right, in Palm Beach. They're paying currently $9,633 a year in taxes. Interest rate is what it is, over 2,100 square feet of space, okay? And we don't know what the rents look like, but the property looks pretty freaking nice. It's cute. It's got, you know, terrazzo floors. The kitchen looks nice. The bathroom, you know, it looks nice. I like this. All right, this one's a little bit older. It's got box ACs, but it's clean. It's clean, right? So this one looks a little bit cluttered, but again, clean. Clean is important. Clean goes a long way, guys. Clean goes a very long way. Let's look at the details of this property. Okay, so it's a concrete block construction duplex, right? And it's got 2 2-1s, right? And they're collecting $2,100 for one of them. So $2,100 here, and then they don't say how much they're collecting for the rest, and we could assume that it's month to month, guys. It's month to month. And what can we actually hope to get here, right? Palm Beach is going to get prices a little bit lower than Broward. Okay, so look at the 2-1, 1960, right? That's how he's getting 2,100 because this is on month to month. Again, more uncertainty, more turnover costs, and so you could get more money for the month to month, but then you're living as a landlord with in Spanish is preocupación, with the concern that you just renewed the next month and you don't know if the next month you're going to get a paycheck because he might just give you a notice and bounce. So with that being said, that's why you charge more money, but then you could have turnover costs every other month. And who wants to live with that, right? I'd rather charge less money and have certainty for an entire year. So with that being said, $2,100 on a month-to-month lease. Okay, now let's look at what else here, guys. 2,100. There's going to be another, right? What could you actually get? Well, given the conditions of the apartment, they do look pretty nice. I think that in this area, $2,000 is going to be about it. Okay, and let's say you rent them both out, now you're getting $4,000 a month. Well, that doesn't look that good on the 1% rule. Even if you got the 2,100, and let's just give this guy the benefit of the doubt here, 2,100 and then 2,100, right? Even if you got these for yearly leases, okay, it wouldn't even pay for the mortgage, even with a 25% down payment, right? It would be a 0.67 on the 1% rule. It wouldn't even get to the orange part here of the calculator. So again, doesn't look very well worth it. And at best right now, the way that this property is listed at $630K, this duplex in Palm Beach collecting, let's see, $4,200 supposedly max per month, would at best give you a 7.2% return on your investment. Now, I think again, this is towards the top end of what this property could produce in rent, but how much could you take off the price? Well, given where it's at, I would hope that you're able to take off close to 10%. So maybe bring this down to $570,000, right? So taking $60K off the price, the best return that this property could actually do is, again, another 8.2%, kind of like the other property. So again, guys, 2 properties today, 2 properties that didn't really make it. One that promised more than it could actually produce. And even though it's pretty, some people could come and fall in love with this property, right? And who wouldn't? Look at the roof, it's like nice and white. It looks like it belongs almost like in a postcard. So, unfortunately, it just wouldn't cash flow. You would make more money just throwing it at the S&P and letting it make you, an average of 10% year over year for the life of this. So with that being said, guys, hopefully tomorrow, Monday, there are more properties and they're cash flowing properties. All right. That being said, have a great day and we'll see you soon.